Welcome. I see you've come crawling back for another tutorial. Well, I have something for you today. Today's educational lesson. Good Lord. Take two. Welcome. I see you've come crawling back for. Good Lord. I need to allow it today. Welcome. I see you've come crawling back for another tutorial. Well, I have exactly what you need today. Today we're going to go through why it takes you so long to implement a feature. In other words, why do you keep missing your feature deadlines? I love Excalibur. So, to be honest, actually, let's start off with this. There's two reasons you're probably missing your feature deadline. And that one is that your deadlines are ridiculous. Poor estimations, whether it was you or whether it was your product manager or whether it was your team lead, whoever did the planning, and created a I don't know, a small ticket size for something that's taken 4 weeks, small t-shirt size, sorry, or said, "Oh, this should be half a day," and then it ends up taking a week. That's often due to a poor planning process. But a lot of the times you might not be in control of that, especially the start of your career. So we're going to skip that and we're going to work on two, which is when you're actually working on the ticket. Basically, from the time you put that ticket into in progress, if you're working on Jira or it also might be in progress on GitHub. I can't remember. But yes, essentially, when we've got that ticket and we're actually working on it, and what we're essentially trying to do if you're someone who's worked in the product space is lower the cycle time. So, quick definitions. There's two main things or two main times that we talk about when we're developing products, and one is lead time and one is cycle time, I believe. And the lead time is usually the total time from when a customer requests a feature to when it actually gets delivered to them to delivery. And then the cycle time is the time from when the team who is actually going to work on that request actually starts working on that request. So let's say a customer puts in a request to fix a bug where they can't click on a button. The lead time would be from when they put that request in all the way to when it's actually fixed. And then the cycle time will be when the engineers start actually working on that bug for when it gets fixed. Starting when it's completed. So as I said, we're actually focusing on this, lowering the cycle time because the lead time often you can't do anything about. We started late. So I think the first thing to know is that there are multiple stages when you're implementing a feature, and not all stages apply equally depending on your experience. Oftentimes, let's say you might not be if you're a junior developer, you might not get as much influence at the start of a task when they're doing the design and all that kind of stuff. But I'm going to go through them all here, or the majority here, and hopefully you'd still be able to pick up some things. So we're assuming we've gotten a basic user story or technical task, whatever you're working on, and the key stages, I'd say, was one is clarifying requirements, and that's with stakeholders, whether that be engineers, technical product managers, whatever you call them, senior managers, depending on how big the feature is. I think the first step is also always clarifying the requirements, even after you've gotten the user story or the task, because speaking from someone who's been in these planning meetings and who's created Jira tickets for other developers to actually implement, don't always do a good job. It's a lot more rackety tack than you think. It's not just, oh, this is exactly what we need doing. No, oftentimes you're time constrained. You need to go through, maybe you're doing Q1 planning, Q2 planning. You need to go through a list of tickets longer than my goals for the year. And same way as a lot of my goals, we never complete them. So I think the first thing to do, clarify and go back to the stakeholders, make sure you understand exactly what needs to be implemented. And then this is also technically part of that stage, but I'm going to keep it separate. And we're going to define acceptance tests, whatever you want to call them, post deployment checks. Basically, these are the checks that we're going to use to. Ooh, oh no. All right, we're good. These are the checks that we're going to use to basically say when a feature is complete. Ideally, when you've written all these tests, you've written all these, not like you're writing them out thoroughly, but you can just write them out like a line. I do this, this happens. I do that, this happens. expected output versus actual output, input versus expected output. So that's, I guess, also part of the clarifying requirements, but I'm keeping it separate here because it is super important. Let me add with stakeholders here. And one thing you'll notice is in these stages, you're often going back to stakeholders. It's not like a one-time thing. So my next step is reconfirm. I've already said it with stakeholders. As I said, these two, you know what, let me get rid of this because I've already said one and two are basically part of an ongoing process where you're going back and forth with stakeholders. So next step, implementation. Good old code monkey type. You know what I'm saying? You just get down and dirty, start your coding, and then don't come back to the team in 2 weeks. And put up a 1,000-line PR and hope that they're going to review it in a day. Classic standard procedures. I know I've done it. Step four. That's deploy and test. Should I keep these separate? Maybe deploy and test. Really, four and five happen together often because you deploy into one environment, deploy maybe to technically maybe you deploy to local, you test on local, deploy to dev, test on dev, deploy to whatever middle ground you have, beta, alpha, UAT, whatever, test there, and then you get to prod. So it's a four and five, we're going back and forth. Just make it obvious. Sorry guys, I don't have my graphics tablet, so you're gonna have to bear with these crappy drawings. So to be honest, at every stage here, I've made errors that have caused the feature to take longer. And I think it's also depending on where you are in your software engineer journey. I think a lot of the times junior devs can make errors in the same areas that other junior devs make. Mid-level devs can make the same errors in other mid-level devs. Obviously, how your experience can dictate what you've learned and what your team has taught you, but I seem to notice patterns. So I'm gonna go through some common reasons based on these stages. Oh, common reasons why features take longer than expected. Sorry if I sound like a rough doer. No, my voice right now is not the best. I'm a bit ill, but we have to deliver. Cool. So one, what did we say? We said the first step was basically clarifying with stakeholders. So one is basically not clarifying enough with stakeholders. Surprise. As I said before, early stage planning meetings are vague. As I don't want to use that word, but you know what I mean. Many teams don't know what they want, and often you might go into it thinking, "Damn, this ticket basically is everything I need to do." When in actuality, even if you didn't do anything on that ticket and you showed it back to the stakeholders, they'd be like, well, that's not actually what we want. Can you do it this way? And then, lo and behold, if you hadn't done that and you started coding, you would have wasted so much time. So, as the great, I don't know who says it, but it's measure twice, cut once. So, always ask, go back, what's the goal of this feature? If they've not written it in user stories, who's it for? Figure out who's it for, what edge cases might be needed. And this is also why I said that the acceptance test post deployment checks was so important because those should cover edge cases. And I guess basically just what are the success and failure conditions. So that's one. I should write these down, but I'm hoping you guys are keeping notes. Two, what do we say? Two is something that's focus on the implementation stage. So waiting too long before sharing progress. Wow, this one here can royally screw you over. I can't say how much you can get screwed over by this. I don't know if you've been in the position where, in fact, I do know, you probably have. You've started a feature and you've gone under the radar. You've gone low key, trying to bang it out. Come back after a week. In that week, yes, you've implemented code. You've done however many hundreds of lines. But what the issue is that you basically not given other people any time to, I guess, look at your code early and judge it early and actually help direct you. So instead of being a process where you can get input from all your team members, other people, you basically made it a one-man crew. And when it gets to the end and you raise that PR, what often will happen is that PR will be filled with comments. And it won't just be comments it won't be comments just around the actual improving code aspect. This might be comments around the business requirements, or this might not do what it's meant to do or what we thought it would do. Or it might be codes around optimizations that the team could have told you they wanted, but you're working on your own. So I think waiting too long before sharing is something that is it plagues especially junior developers. Often sometimes people they won't even push their branch till right at the end. So honestly, as someone who's maybe looking over junior devs, you have no idea what's going on. That guy he could be implementing dog for all I know. But I guess this would be the fix to this would be something like putting up PRs quick. That might be a draft PR if you're using GitHub. It might be you might put a flag in your PR, do not merge. This is what I used to do when I was using Bitbucket. This is just basically to test to clarify with people like is what I'm doing correct? Do you understand the path I'm taking, and is that something you would do as well, or is this not where you want me to head? So I'd say yes, the iterative feedback is something common, and that's the point of agile if you're working in agile. But that's literally the key to a lot of coming out on top at the end of this. Read a lot of these, but read Lean Startup. You learn the benefits of the iterative process, iterative feedback, which is so critical. So next steps, skipping or rushing testing. These are like acceptance tests, post-deployment checks in every environment. Look, often, let's say you've messed up on one or two, you're behind. So your TL's on your case, your manager's on your case, senior manager might be on your case, and you're just like, F it, I'm just gonna plug it in. I'm gonna deploy it, hope for the best. It's Friday evening. No one will even know if it goes down. Even me saying it sounds just so awful, but I'm sure you've done something similar. As of myself, I've skipped or rushed on testing, and that rushing ends up leading to more bugs and a longer cycle time. And as they say, slow is smooth, smooth is fast. So this is where defining the test before implementing comes in. And if you're defining tests, that's a perfect time to look and see these tests that I've defined, are they automatable? If so, then I should be writing these tests when I'm doing the feature, because there's nothing better and also worse that when you've written acceptance tests that can run automatically. Oh, I've just realized my face is covering the screen. Sorry, guys. There's nothing better when you've written these tests and go in and you find a bug with these tests. You can go back and fix it, and then you can instantly click another button to run them again. Rather than if you have acceptance tests or post deployment checks that are what's the term, manual, let's say user interactions. Every time you run them and then find a bug and then might have to do it again, it's just so long and it takes so much of your time. So ideally, define these beforehand and make them automated if possible. So these are the three key ones based on the stages. And I guess once you've figured out, well, the first step is look at these and look through maybe you're basically trying to find your bottleneck. Where I've just given you some common reasons, but these might not be the reasons yours are taking long. So your first step is basically find your bottleneck. Look through your process. Maybe something that I've done before. I don't do as much these days, but I use time tracking. You can look at Jira. You can see how long it took in each stage of the work of development. Maybe how long was it in progress. You can look at GitHub PRs, see how long they took, or Bitbucket PRs, see how long they took. Me personally, I just do it manually. And then once you do that, you can actually find a lot of the where the time is most spent. Put it into a spreadsheet. Maybe it's see basically where was it in requirements I took too long there, or testing, PR, feedback, and then once you've done that, you can basically improve based on your bottleneck. Let's say, I don't know, requirements weren't clear and you didn't clarify them. Well, let's say now that might mean you need to spend more time in discovery meetings. Let's spend more time in planning meetings. It might be that you need to get yourself into the office. And one thing I have noticed in the office, it's a lot easier to do this step because you can just swivel your chair around, assuming your other teammates are in the office as well. Swivel it round, not tap their shoulder and be like, hey, Bob, what's the deal with this? What's actually needed? We can just have a quick 5-minute discussion and you can clarify things rather than waiting to put a meeting in. Or it's a lot quicker. So in the case that requirements aren't clear, maybe that'll look like, as I said, get it to the office, spend more time in planning meetings. And guys, sometimes I know it might feel like in meetings it's a waste of time, but good meetings can be way more effective than any code that you can write. And the emphasis is on good action orientated meetings where you've gone in with an agenda and you've come out with an action plan. action items. So just make sure if you are going when you are clarifying requirements, that's the kind of meetings you're going into, and you can come out of this. If you do it fast and early at the start, you can come out of this so much better than if you didn't. So I guess the next, well, that's just one example of where you could improve. As I said, if the feedback loop is slow and delayed, i.e., you waited right until the end to put up a PR, maybe use draft PRs, schedule mini check-ins with stakeholders or your team, even pair. Sometimes you might even be able to ask to, can you pair with me? Pair programming, especially if you want to do it with a senior dev who knows the code base better. Be like, hey, do you have 30 minutes? Can we just go through the code together? Have them sit at your desk and explain your thought process, explain how you're going to implement it. A lot of the times they'll come up with a solution that is just way quicker, way easier to do than what you ever thought. So maybe testing slowing you down, or maybe PRs are taking too long to review. One thing for PRs, I will say, you can really get a lot of information from your previous PRs. Just take the time to write down maybe the PR, go through the longest PRs you had. Maybe you had 80 comments, had 100 comments. Oftentimes you might just move on, but there's so much data there that you can use to improve yourself. Because if you think about it, a great, or let's use the current 10x engineer, a 10x engineer probably wouldn't have 100 comments on their PR. It would be so clear and it would be so understandable that anyone could look at it and review that PR and be like, yes. Maybe the only thing they might have is stylistic things, but there is definitely something wrong if you've got a large amount of comments on the PR. It basically means you've not either gone through the requirements and clarified what's needed early. You've not done a lot of steps that will help the team understand either why this PR is done or why you've implemented this PR in that certain way. So a really useful tip is to, after some of these long PRs, go through, maybe mark down comments, the number of comments, how long it took, the type of comments, bucket them into, I don't know, 6 or 7 buckets is what I used to do. And put this all into Excel and you can create some graphs and try and analyze and see where the patterns emerge and see exactly what you need to focus on. So it's just really 2 steps. Find your bottleneck, improve on your bottleneck. And if I'm just going to say a final takeaway, can't fix what you don't measure. If you don't know what's wrong, um, you your manager can say, "Wow, you take a long time." You can feel that you're taking a long time, but again, if you don't know what's wrong, you won't know how to fix it. And the key to speed in this case isn't to rush through it; it's reducing rework. Because 2 weeks, let's say, let's a prime example, a feature might take 1 week if you rush to get it to PR stage, to get it where you put up a PR. That PR could take a week. The deployment process could take another week because you've got a bug and you need to go back and fix. Now it's taking 3 weeks versus you've been in a few more meetings, you've clarified stuff, and now getting it to the PR stage might take 2 weeks. But then getting it deployed and everything and getting that PR merged might take 2 days. So you're actually saving on time. So just work smarter by getting feedback earlier, iterate on it, and be proactive. That's it for today, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Like, subscribe, and I'll be back with another one shortly.